Hi everyone, Dr. Anita here, founder of TheFreedomPrescription.com. When the video is over, make sure you head on over there and grab your free grit gift if you haven't already. I want to talk to you today about something that's going to sound a little bit contradictory coming from me. I want to encourage you today to stop listening to too many experts in your world. In this day and age, it seems like everyone's an expert in something, and it's wonderful. You know, there's so many people who are delving deep into a topic and they develop expertise, certainly in a particular area. I know I'm considered as someone who has expertise in a lot of different areas because of my education, my training, my background. Okay, that's great. And maybe you really do listen to what I have to say and appreciate my perspective, and I'm grateful for that, believe me. But what I want to tell you, though, today is that I want you to learn how to rely more on yourself and less on experts. I don't want you to ever think that an expert has more information about you than you do. An expert has a lot of good ideas, a lot of great experience from other people, but that does not always necessarily mean it's going to translate to your specific situation. And here's why. Oftentimes, experts like myself rely heavily on scientific inquiry. We look at science, we look at scientific research, we conduct scientific research, we read it to try to keep up to date in our particular areas, and that's really important. Science is crucial for us as a society, just to advance humankind. We really need to understand what our environment is, what's going on around us, how we can improve ourselves, how we can improve technology, how can we improve medical care. All of those are so important. So science really plays a very central role in humankind. However, there's certain parts of science that are so complicated, and psychology being one of them, sociology another one, anthropology another one, and food and nutrition, exercise science, those are other ones that are so complicated that it's really, you have to be very, very careful when you hear information from experts in those areas, myself included, and I'll tell you why in a second here. Because their information is going to be accurate according to what they know, but sometimes what they know is not always going to translate into what you need at any point in time. Here's why. Science in these particular areas, and science in general, relies heavily, almost exclusively, on the idea of control. In order for scientists to determine that one thing causes another thing, they have to exert as much control over the scientific process as possible. They have to eliminate all the other variables and factors that may or may not influence a particular outcome because they just want to isolate everything down to one particular variable that might affect this other particular variable. And that's how science has to work. And that's one of the reasons it's very slow, by the way, and why science can just seem to take a very long time in our understanding of things. That's necessary because of the scientific process. Because it has to have so much control associated with it, it just advances very, very slowly. That's how it has to be. So it's really important that that's how science is, because that's the only way we know that variable A impacts variable B, is when you can confidently eliminate all the other variables or factors that can contribute to behavior in this case, for instance. So we need to get rid of them, and that way we control for them. We can say in this particular environment, we know that for the most part, variable A affects variable B, and we can prove that because there's no other variables that were at play in this particular experiment. And that's great, and that really helps us understand human behavior more. Here's the problem. When we take that specific behavior and that specific circumstance that was highly controlled in that scientific study, and then we place it out in the real world, that same type of control has nowhere to be found. The average person is affected by millions of inputs of information every second. Your brain is processing all kinds of things that are going on inside your body that you're not even consciously aware of, but your brain is processing. And then, of course, there's all the things that you are aware of all around you that you're being hit with constantly, and your brain is processing those things. Not to mention all the electronic devices, which just dramatically increase the amount of stimuli that our brain has to endure. So all of these things our brain are trying to just kind of manage. That means we're influenced by so many different factors, and some of them are internal, can't even be seen, and you're not even necessarily aware of them. And that's a problem when it comes to trying to apply scientific research that happen in a very controlled environment to things that happen in kind of almost a chaotic sort of situation in real life. We don't have the kind of control that scientists have in the laboratory. And that's okay. That's how it's supposed to happen. But what that means is that when a scientific study comes out, they can tell you with broad understanding how a large group of people may or may not behave in very specific circumstances. What they cannot tell you is how one specific person may or may not behave or react in a particular circumstance. They can't tell you that. They can say, well, the odds are that this might happen, or the data shows that this is the trend in this particular situation. And so when it comes to large groups of people, they can tell you, well, you know, things tend to go this way or that way, and they would be right. But when it comes down to one person, when it comes down to your child or your outcome that you want to influence, they can't really tell you. So what you'll have to do is become an expert on yourself. And luckily, that's so easy because you already are an expert on yourself. So you're just going to take that one step farther and start learning how to be an investigative scientist of your own brain and your own behavior. What that means is that when there's a particular thing in your area that you want to change, for instance, you want to grow your business, you want to isolate the times during your day, your week, or your month, whatever's relevant here, where you tend to behave in a way that is actually not helpful to growing your business. Figure out what happens there. Really sit down and think, what happens in that situation? Why do I avoid that? What am I saying to myself? What are the sorts of factors that I allow to derail me so that I end up not doing what I know I want to do? You know the answers to these questions, and if you don't know, you can easily find them out by just sitting it down and really remembering and thinking through each step of the way. You may not know what to do about that. That's the next step. But the first step is just identifying, yeah, you know, I tell myself this thing and then I realize, gosh, 10 minutes later, I'm, checking my email or checking Facebook, and I'm not even dealing with any of the marketing calls that I need to make or the follow-up phone calls that I have to make, and I just avoid them entirely. And at that point, you're tired, you want to go to sleep already, or your brain is already shut off. You've checked out, so you're not even going to pick up the phone or work on your marketing materials or whatever. So what you can do is when that happens, you can go through in your mind, in your memory, and identify where was the specific point where the train fell off the track. Okay, where did that happen along that whole time? It may have even happened that morning where you may have said to yourself, I know I'm just not going to feel like doing what I need to do tonight. I just know I'm not going to. And you may realize you were telling yourself that at 8 o'clock this morning. And of course, when it comes time at 7 o'clock at night to do your follow-up phone calls, you're not going to feel like doing that. You're not going to feel like writing your new marketing material because all day long you've been trying to say to yourself, well, I'm going to have to do this. I bet I'm not going to feel like it. So there's no harm or shame in that. Okay, I just want you to be aware of the specific things that you are doing that eventually lead you up to not behaving the way you want to behave. Okay, so you can just investigate like a scientist would your own behavior, your own memories. And then the next step is to identify, be very specific in your mind what you do want to do when that situation happens again, because it will happen again. If you're growing a business, you're going to have to eventually call your follow-up phone, make your follow-up phone calls. You're going to have to do your marketing material. There's just going to be certain things you're going to have to do, and that's fine. But now the next time that you know you have time to do it, I want you to develop a very specific vision in your head of how you do want to make sure you behave when that time happens. And make a rule for yourself. If you know that at 8 o'clock that morning you're starting to talk yourself out of it already, be aware of that. Catch yourself at 8 o'clock in the morning when you start to say these things, and commit to yourself that when I catch myself saying these things, I'm going to say to myself, no, I know for 100% fact that at 7 o'clock tonight, I am going to sit down and I'm going to write out my marketing materials for the next month. I'm going to do it. And then that's just your new rule for yourself, that when you catch yourself trying to talk yourself out of doing something, instead, you're going to say this other thing to yourself. Okay? And then you just do it. Then the next time that it happens, you now have a new rule that you're going to live by. You now have a new set of behaviors that you're going to be much more likely to stick to because you have identified the specific derail points and you've identified a specific solution to make sure that you don't get derailed in that specific situation. And that's what scientists do all the time. They look at a situation, they break it down into its components, they figure out where is the one component that makes the biggest impact in this particular area, and let's see if we can understand it. And in the case of fixing a problematic behavior, they think about, okay, what can we do here? How can we intervene here in a way that's going to be effective? And that's what you're going to do with your own life. You can do that. You are an expert on yourself. Now, I'm always going to recommend that you always consult with experts. You know, be aware of what they're saying because they may give you some new insights, some new ideas. I'm not saying experts are useless. I don't want to work myself out of a job or discourage any clients from future clients from coming to me. But I do want you to know that ultimately you know yourself best. You really do. Experts don't know any better than you do, with a few exceptions. Sure, doctors know more about physical health than you do. And psychologists know a lot about behavior in broad terms, and they may be able to help give you some different perspective on things that you're not able to have yourself. But really, they're not giving you anything that you cannot get for yourself. So I hope this was helpful to you because I want you to feel confident in what you know. I'm really tired about in this world of experts. I think there's too much of a reliance on experts, and people are moving through their lives feeling very doubtful and they're lacking confidence about some things, and they're scared to make moves because they don't want it to be wrong. And when you have experts screaming at you, do this, don't do that, that's going to screw you up forever. It makes you feel paralyzed. You don't know what to do because, of course, you don't want to do something wrong, do you? But so when you have all these experts screaming at you, it gives you this impression that you're about to do something wrong any minute of the day. Let's break out of that, okay? I want to consult with them, listen to what they have to say, and use that possibly going forward. But ultimately, you are the expert in yourself. Become your own investigative scientist in your own life. So I hope that this helps you. I really want you to feel empowered about making your own life decisions and in analyzing and pushing yourself to go higher and be better, grow your business, grow your life, advance yourself personally. It's important. Figure out how to do that. You are the expert in yourself. You know what you do. You know what you shouldn't do anymore. Now figure out how to change that and then just move forward and just do it. All right, make sure that you give this a thumbs up on YouTube. Make sure you share this on Facebook, like it, give me a comment, tell me if you think that that I'm totally wrong. I may be an expert, but I'm totally misguided. I can take it. Let me know what your thoughts are, or certainly send me an email. And I'll see you next time. Don't forget to go over, by the way, to thefreedomprescription.com to get your free 43-page book, and I'll see you next time.